Hi everyone, it's Kim. Thanks for joining me. I am so excited that Tim has released 5 new vault dies, and even though he isn't creating any new designs, he went back with Sizzix and pulled out different dies from a variety of sets, combined them differently, sized them differently, and put them together. And that's what we're going to take a look at today. The die sets are packed with different dies, and each set is still $20.99. So a great value. And I think as we go through these, you're going to see how many big dies that he pulled from that are now thinlits. So that's another bonus as far as storage. So let's start out with these two. And the things that I created today aren't necessarily for any particular purpose or reason. It was just to have fun and play with the new dies. So I combined these two sets for this card, and I did add the B, which we'll take a look at from an older set. So these are great to mix and match with things that you already have, whether they're Tim Holtz dies or something else. But today I really tried to pretty much stay all with Tim's new dies. So on this one, let's take a look. We've got some flowers and an embossing folder there. And then for the background, and then the B. So let's take a look at the sets. So the first one is Sidekick Side Order. So again, all of these will fit into your Sidekick embossing machine if you have that. This is called Vault Floristry. So we've got all these flowers, leaves, and then this little embossing folder. And I actually ran it through twice just to get a little bigger image for an embossing folder. And then I did use the edges, and I used this one like a torn edge. What I love about this set is this alphabet. What a value to have an entire alphabet for $20.99, and then to have these edging dies on top of that. So you probably can't really see because a lot of the edge is covered up, but that's where I use. It's like a decal edge or a torn edge on the side of this paper. And I will be honest, when I look at these, I'm kind of like, I'm not sure how to use these. But on Tim's live, he gave some examples of some great uses for these. So if you haven't seen the live, I encourage you to go watch that and check it out. The bee, I figured if I had like a honeycomb on the back, I better have a bee. So the bee is from an older set. This is called Funky Insects. I've always liked that bee, and it works perfectly to mix it with these new vault sets. So let's just real quickly look at the new sets and the old die sets, just to look at kind of where they came from, because you might have some of these older sets and the size differences. And Tim does this on his video as well, but I always do this, and then I write down where the original sets came from, what set, and then I keep this. So if I'm digging for something, I know where to find the old set. So the colored ones are the new vault sets, and the black images are the original set. So you can see pretty much all of the new images, all of the new dies are smaller than the original. But let me show you where they came from, just in case you have some of these as well. So the flowers all come from Modern Floristry, and all of the flowers are on this new vault set. The leaves come from 3 other sets, and these are the brushstroke sets. So let's look at those. So this is brushstroke flowers number 1. So this little leaf here comes from this set. So down here you can see brushstroke flowers number 1. And then brushstroke flowers number 3 provides 3 leaves. So up here, if we look at this one and these two, those come from this set. Here's the new vault set. And then finally, brushstroke flowers number 4 takes this leaf set, and here it is in the vault set. So he picked, let's see, 4 different sets. I do think there is a regular size embossing folder too. I kind of tried to figure that out, and there's an embossing folder called Bubble and Honeycomb. It was a 2-pack embossing folder, and I think I have that, but I didn't take the time to dig that out. But that gives you an overview of what's in the new vault set compared to all of the original die sets. And then here's the edges. So this is all Big's dies, and that's what is so great. So here's 3 of them. I don't have one of them, but let's start here with the edges. So this is the new vault edge. Here's the original die, and 2 of these. Torn Notebook is the original die, and this is a bigger die, you know, where it isn't a thinlet. I guess they would consider this a bigs. They called it alterations. So I have those 2 dies here, but how much easier is it to use on that thinlet? And then plaque and postage is the on the edge die, the original die here, and this is the new vault die. And then I don't have the on the edge dies like this for the mini scallop and pinking, is what the original die was called. So for the scallop and the pinked edge, I don't have the original, but now I have it as a thinlet, which is great. And then finally on the letters, the original die was called Block Talk lowercase. So this is the size of the old die set, and here it is as the new vault thinlet set. Here's the original die. So you can see how humongous this is. Sorry about all the glare there. But now I will find it much easier to use this thinlet set. So the big die sets are now basically condensed into this little envelope. And this is so much easier to store and access and actually use. So I was thrilled just to get, even if all I use mainly is the letters, I'm thrilled with that. So let's take one more look at another floral one. And I did use the edge of like the torn notebook here. Although when I positioned this on the pink background, I didn't think ahead very well, and I trimmed most of that off. So next time I'll position a little different, but still you can see the die. And then I used the different flowers, these bigger flowers on this one. And then for my background, again, these all coordinate with everything Distress, everything Tim. I pulled out the Field Notes stamps because I have kind of been neglecting my stamps, and I thought this is perfect to use with this die set. So I did that, and then my little sentiments here, I'll show you the paper pack those came from because we're going to see some of those again. But very easy, and again, this really doesn't have any purpose except to play with the new die sets. So that's 2 of them to get us started. And then here's another one. This is the retro die set. 50s is what I think of when I look at this. So here's the die set. This is called Vault Atomic Retro. Love the pieces in this set. I just love all these icons. There's the letters from the edges die. So now you can see how big these are. And everything else came from this die set. So my little cutout is using this die right here. And super simple. I just love, again, those elements. So clean and simple. Easy, easy, easy. So let's take a look at the TV. And this is cute. Now, the TV is flat, so it makes like the top layer here. But Zoe Hillman, who is on what is one of Tim's makers, pulled out another die and made the matchbox so this can sit up. So you can make it like a 3D TV, and you can push the little box out if you want and put whatever you want in there, or you could put the image right behind the TV. You don't have to make the box. And we'll look at one where it's just like the top layer of the TV. But that gives you an idea if you want a 3D TV. I'm also going to encourage you to, if you're on Instagram, look up Ink Lady Blue, because she did one with a box, and then she took a set of Tim's cats, and I can't recall the name of the die set for the cats. You'll recognize them. And somehow she put like a little nose on the cat and pulls that nose out, and this box slides out when she pulls that nose. So if you want to see something that is just so amazing, check that out. I don't know if it's on YouTube, but you could check. under Ink Lady Blue and see if that's on YouTube as well. But to make this little box, it's the Matchbox from the Vault Matchbox. So this is a recent die, and then you can just cut out the top, the part that goes around the box here if you want to open it up for the TV. Now, comparing this TV with the original TV, let's look at that. Here's the original Biggs die for the TV, so you can see the difference. There are no little plastic covers for this. It's just open, so you could put some acetate behind that if you want to, say, put something in there and you don't want it to fall out. But that gives you an idea of the difference in the sizes, and yet that little Matchbox makes it work like a 3D TV. So let's just look at the original size. Let's compare again. So here's the original retro TV and the new one. Let me move these out of the way here. And then you can see all of the other atomic die pieces and how they compare. And there's a few new ones in there that aren't in the original set. So let's just take a look at this. This is the first original die. So this is called Atomic Elements. And again, the new ones are all smaller than the original ones. But these over here do not have an exact, these down here do not have an exact match in here. So some of these are new. And then you saw the TV, which is a Biggs die. So I still love having the big TV, but I really love having that little one. And again, it's a Thinlet now. It's not a big old die that takes up more room to store. And this one, it's in this Thinlet set. But I also, when I was pulling out my other dies, found it in this Biggs die. And this one is called Atomic. So if you have this one, you've got 3 sizes, and I didn't cut this one out, but it's larger than this. So just see what you've got in your stash. But this will be fun to play with. I love these icons, and they're just great to decorate in so many different ways. So I wanted to use that TV, and here I'm going to use it. This next one I'm going to show you, I'm using it flat. And then, again, you might look at this and think, well, that's kind of weird. But this combines 2 die sets, 2 new die sets. So the first one, here's that TV. You can see that it's flat. And then you see those pipes coming out. And we're going to take a look at all of these pipes here in just a minute. But I want you to notice I'm not using it in a normal way. TVs have advanced a lot since the 50s. And I thought, well, maybe we could get a TV someday where if we're seeing an ad for M&Ms, maybe we want to try them out and we can just get those M&Ms to come out of the TV so that we can eat them. So I know, kind of corny, but a fun way to use it. And I'm going to show you this paper pack because I think that adds to it. And finally, let's look at this little hand. This is my one non-Tim die. This is Spellbinder's Bestie Heart and Hand. You know how much I love to use these hands. And I found a pancake maker that's either 5 or 6 inches in diameter, a little larger than that really small one we used. I cut this out of the shrink plastic, shrunk it down in my new little pancake maker I found at the Goodwill, and that's how I made my hand. So this is shrink plastic. So the perfect size to catch those M&Ms, and then I just printed the M&M image off of the internet. So yeah, kind of crazy, but I had fun making it. So let's take a look at the last 2 new sets. First, I want to show you a paper pack that inspired me for a lot of these. So it's called Blueprints. It's from Paper Rose. It's more of an industrial kind of look to this. So this was right up my alley. So I'm just going to show you. There's 6 different designs, double-sided, so really 12 designs. But let me just show you the paper real quick. So this one is what made this card here. And then on the back side are a bunch of light bulbs. So we'll be looking at this one. Pipes, yeah, we'll be looking at this one. And then you can see just like a diagram on the back side. This is where all of the sentiments that I'm using that we have seen, I just cut the sentiments up. But how easy to cut some of these other pieces up. Backside. And then we have another diagram. Newsprint on the back. Another diagram. And this just reminds me like of a metal finish or something. Just good old grungy brown. And then whatever that you want to call that design on the back. So I love this paper pack, and it really helped inspire me for the next few items that we're going to take a look at. So let's start with this one. And again, this is made for nothing in particular. I just kind of wanted to play with this. And this combines the last two new vault sets. So here's the first one. We see the clipboard on this. And this is called Vault Noteworthy. And then the next one has the light bulb and all those pipes, kind of industrial artifacts there. And this is called Vault Industrial. So let's just take a look at this. Tim spent time on both of these elements on his YouTube Live. So the little clipboard, you can actually slide something under there, and he shows how to do that on his YouTube Live. But that's pretty cool to be able to slip that in and out. And then he does spend some time on the light bulb. So you can see my light bulb. I just took a piece of acetate that I had, nothing special, heated it up. He shows how he did that with a particular type of paper. But this is what I had handy, and I just took a gold pen and went around the edge just so you could see it a little better. Put those pieces in there, and there is that light bulb paper that we just looked at. When I saw like the pipes and the pipe paper and the light bulb and the light bulb paper, I'm like, that's why I love that paper pack. So again, just playing with the different elements. This really has no meaning except to have fun. And let's take a look at these last two comparisons, because I think all of these are Big's dies. So it's fascinating to me that I can take all those big dies and have them in a one package of Thinlits. So here is our pipeline. And let me pull these out while we go through these. So I've actually got these 4 dies. I think I have all of these, and this big Thinlits, or this Big's dies. All of these dies, various pieces, come out of these big dies and are now in that one Thinlit pack. So pipeline, this is the original one. Here's the new Vaults one. You can see the size difference. This one is called Voltage. So this is the only die in this set. Here it is in the new Vault die. Steampunk parts. This big circle on the outside is from this set. And then here's the new one from the Vault set. And get a load of filament. Wow. There's that great light bulb. So here's the original Big's die. Here it is here. And then here is the new Vault die. And then all of these gears over here come from Industrial. So this is a large Big's die. And now I've got them in a little smaller set. But again, I've got 4 gears from that set. And then finally, there are some numbers. And this was from, I don't have this die set. This was a Big's die called Cargo Stencil. When you look at the original die, it's like cut out more like a stencil. And how I understand it from Tim, it was to be used more like a stencil. Because if these dropout pieces are used, you kind of need to keep this so you can put the cut out dropout pieces back in like I did over here. So I don't have this one. So now I do, and probably in a size that I'll use much more than the big original die set. So lots of dies, lots of pieces in this set. And then the other one that we're going to look at is Vault Noteworthy. So this one, and some of these most of them are Thinlit dies, and they're fairly recent. They're not as old as like all of the industrial dies. So let's take a look at these here, and you can see the size difference again. And this again has a couple of new things in it that didn't exist before. So let's start with this big file folder. So this is from Specimen. You can see how tiny this new little one is, and I've got an idea I'm working on for this, and I could easily use it for the old original Specimen die too. And then the other pieces that come out of Specimen are all right here. This little tab, and then this little like holder, file holder, or whatever you want to call that. You can see the size differences. And then let's see here. These little circles up here, that's from this die set. This is called Collector. So it's just like where you wind the string around it. The new one's the same size, but it has some lines on it. So it's a little more decorative, where this one is just plain. The clipboard is from a movers and shapers. So where you had that metal tray and these were magnetic and stuck to the metal tray. So you can see what the mini clipboard looks like compared to what it is now. So this was set up to kind of make it like a real clipboard. And then the background for this would be a new piece because that wasn't contained in the original dice set. Let's see what else we've got here. So the postage stamp and this little arrow comes from Postal. Again, this isn't a real old die, and this may still be available, but you can see the size difference, a teeny tiny postage stamp. Then the last few that we have down here, this paper clip, like this little clip here, this is from a set called Noted. It was a side order, a Sidekick side order. So we've got that little paper clip. And then this little globe over here is from, again, another Sidekick side order. This is called, let's see here, the name of this is called Travel. So we've just got the little globe, and you can see what the new size is. Now, these are, we could probably go back and find bigger ones. These are smaller, these little labels. I didn't try to go back and compare all of those with previous ones because there's so many of them. So that's just what the new ones are, and then you can go back into the other sets and just see whatever else is available if you need a different size. And then these last few pieces here, this is supposed to be like cellophane tape, old cellophane tape. Now you can't tell that with the color that I used, but that is what this is from an ideology set that he had, where it looks like old cellophane tape. So you can use those in any manner that you want. If you want to make it look like old cellophane tape, obviously you wouldn't die cut it out in blue paper. But lots to look at in both of these sets. And I'm going to leave you with one last industrial one. This one is close to my heart because, it's good and grungy, and I know not everybody's into grunge, but boy, I am. So we'll start with the paper. That's from the paper pack. And when I saw the paper, I was like, I know what dies I'm going to use. And this new vault die hadn't come out yet. So we've got our paper from Paper Rose. Here is the size of the new vault die. This pipeline, the black, is from the original Biggs die. The Imagine, Dream, and Explore is from that paper pack. And I also cut out those little images, the little like gauges from the paper pack too. So let's see if I can find it quick here. So I just cut out some of these gauges, and a lot of these are timepieces, but you can see how you can mix and match. This would maybe be great to cut out and somehow use with all of these pipes. And finally, this big piece here is from it's clay, and I found this in a booth last year at Scrapbook Expo. So this is called Rusty Pipes. Again, you wouldn't have to make it rusty if you didn't want, but it's a mold. And I found this in the Stamplistic booth. And then you can just put clay in there, let it dry, and then paint it, do whatever you want to grunge it up. Now, remember, you don't have to make those pipes grungy. I love to do that, but you could make any of these pipes fun. I mean, these aren't grungy pipes pumping out the M&Ms from the TV. So think what else you could have come out of those pipes, and they don't have to be grungy. So let your imagination go wild and just think, what else could come out of those pipes besides water and something maybe industrial? Anyway, that's the 5 new vault sets from Tim. So excited when those came out, and you can see how great they are to mix and match with either the original Tim dies or anything you have of Tim's, or maybe other die sets. You don't have to limit yourself to just one thing. So we'll be looking at a lot of these, playing with these down the road here because they're so perfect to use for, again, a lot of different occasions. So thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you again in a future video.